where we were in the last class.
Well, static checking, white box testing.
Okay, okay. Oops, sorry, I took the wrong slides. Just a second, I took a wrong selection of the slides. Yeah, so in our previous discussions, we were dealing with the types of testing. We're talking about the test management and automation. We were also talking about no, sorry. This particular part we are yet to cover. Extremely sorry. So we are done with black box testing. We also had some minor discussions on some of the topics related to white box testing, and then we saw some basic definitions related to white box testing. That white is called as glass box testing, and in some of the cases we said that okay, this is something which is transparent as well, and then we also talked about the basic need of this white box testing, and then we saw the differences between black box and white box testing. Then we looked into the classifications, right? So in this particular discussion we were dealing with your static testing. This particular part we have covered, right? All these things: test checking, code walkthrough, and code inspection. Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yeah. So uh, we talked about the static testing, where we also looked into the aim of static testing, and then we saw what basically this test checking is: the code walkthrough, code inspection, code review, and code inspection. Where we said that okay, with this, we are uh, increasing the formalism, right? So initially it's like done at the developers level, then we saw the people involved, and then we also look into your documentation part as well. Everything gets recorded, and then it's discussed among the team. Then there were some issues related to test checking as well, and then we also saw that we went for a systematic examination. Afterwards we also talked about your code inspection, where we said that okay, this is something which is also called as your Fagan inspection, where we have like high degree of formalism in this. And this was the team, right? The coder, the moderator who was responsible for the code, right? The coder moderator is like the person who moderates the entire meeting. Inspectors will be raising the questions for the uh, coder for the piece of code which he has come up with. Then we have like scribe who jots on, you know, all the details discussed, the points raised, and we said that okay, this is right, called as defect logging meeting. And then we saw that there are issues with this formal inspection as well, because it is dealing with high degree of formalism. So we need to have your time, we need to have your availability, right? Everyone's availability is required. So this becomes something which is a time consuming affair. And then we looked into the drawback of static checking as well. And in today's discussion, we are going to talk about structural testing, where we said that we look into the code. We are going to look into the structure of the code. We are going to talk about the internal design. And in this part, we said that code is run actually by computers. Right, code is run actually by computers. And in this, we have like code coverage, where we have like statement coverage, path coverage, condition and function coverage. We will try to look into this in different uh, way, and then we talk about unit or functional testing. Then we'll talk about your code complexity or cyclomatic complexity, which was given by Thomas McCann. Now, so here initially we are going to talk about logic which we are using, right? So we have like certain logic coverage criteria where we go for your statement coverage. We look into the decisions or the branch coverage, and from this name itself, you might have got some idea that there will be, some decision, and there will be several branches. Based on that, right, we'll take a call. The coverage, call on the coverage, and then we'll talk about the condition coverage, right? So these, uh, you know, in case of conditions also, various checks will make. And then we have like decision or condition coverage. So what we have done is, as previously explained, right, we have done this uh, thing in a compact way. And additionally, we can have multiple condition coverage as well, and the function coverage as well. This becomes comparatively a smaller task as compared to the statement, right? Or the decision, or the condition, or the uh, multiple condition coverage. Now, so what I have done is like I took this small piece of code written in C++ in order to, explain all these coverage, logic coverage criterias. And it's a simple C code. So what it C++ code. So what it is doing is taking X and Y as input. Then we have this check, right? We check whether X isn't equals to Y. In that case, what we are doing is that if X is greater than Y, so I'm reducing Y from X, or else X is reduced from Y in case of the other way around. Right, so that means I'm entering into this portion only when X is not equals to Y. In other case, directly will be here, or else after entering into this, we'll be looking for these two things. That means the output statements. A simple code. Any problem with this code?
No, sir.
Okay. Fine. So let's take the discussion forward, because see, why I've introduced with this piece of code is that I took the same piece of code to explain all the all these decision coverage, condition coverage, statement coverage, and so on and so forth. So to start with, what we have is we have the statement coverage. Now, a simplest thing, but a tough nut to crack. The reason being because statement coverage is like covering each and every statement of my piece of code. Well, anyways, coming back to this, in case of statement coverage, we take an assumption, and the assumption is that if all the statements of the module you can say, or you can say a product. So if all the statements of the module are executed once, every error will be notified. So what we assume is that if all the statements are executed, then I'll be able to uncover the defects which are there in my product. Now, so this is a piece of code, right? The same piece of code we have. So to start with, what we have is we have like test case one, where we said that, okay, let's give x equals to y equals to a. Right, because see, why we are choosing this is like assumption is that every line of code should be executed. The next point is that I have to provide, and this particular piece of code is visible to me, right? I'm able to see this particular piece of code. Plus, along with the piece of code, I also know what all things are available with me. Along with that, what I know is that the basic purpose of this particular product. The basic purpose of this particular product. So what I'm going to do is that I have given the first test case where I've said x equals to y equals to a. A means here some value. So what will happen is that this particular line of code checked, this particular line of code checked, and comparison takes place, and I'll be able to execute this. Right. So this checked. In case of statement coverage, since the funda is that all the or entire piece of code is tested, so in that case, I'll be able to manage, and in some sense, directly or indirectly, I'm also checking the function coverage and decision coverage. How it is happening at this moment of time, we don't have to think about it, because right now the idea is to execute all these statements because we are going for statement coverage. So next case is that let's give two values, right? So what we have done is let x equals to a and x equals to b. Now the test case 3 and 4 I've given in order to explain you a scenario, because this is nothing but, you can say it is 2a and 2b only. Right. Whenever I'm giving x equals to a and x equals to b, where a is not equals to b, there will be two scenarios, right? There will be only two scenarios, either this or this. So in that case, let's directly talk about test case 3 and 4. For your sake of understanding, I've explained in this way, and then I've added these two. So when x is not equals to y, and I have this particular scenario, so I've executed this, I've executed this, this particular line becomes active, right? Checking done, went inside, checked this particular part, right? Went for this, went for this, went for this, executed. I'm still left with executing these two lines of code. In that case, I'll prefer to go for test case 4 or test case 2b. And in this case, what I'll do, this checked, this checked, this checked, and went for this, went for this, went for this, went for this. So what I've done is I have executed all the line of code at least once. Right. Although, see, practically saying in a project, it's practically impossible. But since here it is like for your sake of understanding, plus the size of code being relatively smaller, we are discussing this particular part. So, any doubts in this?
Sir, in test case 3 or 4, there can be scenario where our code will not run for the last two lines, and it will lead to runtime error or something.
In test case 3 and 4,
Because if when x and y are not equal, the while loop may lead to runtime error. Like in scenario 2, x is equals to 2 and y equals to 0, it will always go for 2 not equals to y, and if 2 is greater than 0, it will turn 2 equals to 2 minus 0. So it will always remain x is equals to 2 and y is equals to 0. So while loop will run into a runtime error.
no, still your point. You are saying, let's say if x equals to 2, y equals to 0,
Hmm.
right? Then what's the problem in this?
So while 2 is not equals to 0, if the
Yes,
statement is true, we will enter in the while loop.
yes,
We will check if 2 is greater than 0, yes,
yes,
and we will change 2 is equals to 2 minus 0, which is x is equals to 2 itself.
yes.
So it will again go into the while loop and it will never end.
No, from here, what will happen? I got the value of x. I've displayed it.
That's while loop.
While loop. No, then you're talking about the dependency on the compiler, right? I'm talking about a generic scenario. Getting this point?
But the code will not execute now. Finish because while loop is a iterative loop.
Right.
So it will again go for checking the condition that x is equals to y or not. Then only it will move
Okay,
to the
okay,
next step.
okay. For the sake of understanding, let me add one exit statement then.
Yeah.
Right, right. Okay, that particular point. Okay, I got it. So let's add that particular exit statement here. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Right. Just simple. See, this example I took a smaller one for the sake of understanding. So, anyways, so I'll add the exist statement if required, right? And in these two places. Correct?
Yes, sir. Fine.
Yeah. So next is, yeah. So what we have done is uh, we have executed all the piece of code, but there are issues. But there are issues. Some problem with this. Yeah. So the problem is that practically it is not possible to execute each and every line of code in a comparatively medium sized project or a large size project. Right. So that's why what we do is we give our best efforts to come up with the test cases in a way that all the line of codes get executed. Now, and this statement coverage also becomes a time consuming process. So, what we have is we have decision coverage. And what we do is that outcomes of the decision are tested. Right. So, what we'll do is we'll look for this and we'll look for uh, this particular part as well. Now, specifically, if suppose I have to take some decisions, I'll rely on this. So initially, I have checked this. I've given. Eventually, in this case, the code is like the test case almost are similar to this particular thing, but in actual, the program will be comparatively larger, and then we have your values, the kind of values which we are inserting. In the next case, what we have done is, once again, this is part of it. Next case, what I'll do is that I'll take a case of x not equals to y, where I'll deal with x greater than y or x less than y. So I have checked this particular part as well. So I went for the decisions. Any doubts in this?
No, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So the good part of today's class is that the strength is low. So uh, we can address more number of queries very easily. Now, next is your condition coverage. So in the previous thing, we are talking about decisions, and in conditions, what we say that each condition in a decision on all possible outcomes at least tested. So what we see is that we have these two conditions for this entire decision, right? I hope there isn't any confusion between your decision and condition.
No, sir.
Okay. So we're looking for conditions, right? One is like I is less than or equals to 5, and j is less than or equals to count. So we have like two scenarios where we said that okay, we went for I is less than equals to 5 and j is less than equals to count. See, in this particular case, I know that we have this. So if this becomes 0, I don't have to test this, right? I hope you people are with me in this.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Right. So, see, the idea is to reduce the effort. Reducing the effort means to reduce the number of test cases and still able to identify the possible errors which are existing in our piece of code. Right? So what we have done is we went for this condition, we went for this where we said okay, this can be false, right? So recall your previous classes discussions where you were talking about this symbol, and then we used to say that okay, I have like and operator kind of thing where I have like false results to false, false true results to false, true false results to false, and true only results to true. So anyways, any doubt in this? Any doubt in this?
Oh, no, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, now let's talk about decision or condition, because see why I've added this not to confuse you, but just because in the literatures it is given in this particular way. So when you're going through the literature, you're not getting confused. So condition coverage in a decision does not mean that the decision has been covered, right? So if A and B, so what we have is like if A is true, B is false, and A is false, B is true, and then further I can add that same part, right? Your true, true, and false, false not required, because anyways, if the first thing is false, then obviously the output will be false only. Now, then we can have like multiple condition coverage, right? So, in case of multiple condition coverage, the sometimes your condition coverage fails to exercise all the conditions. Then we go for this multiple condition coverage, and all the combination of different multiple conditions are tested in this. So, in this case, what we do is that we try to look for all the permutations and combinations in order to check. In some sense, you can relate it with your you know uh, your decision table, where we said that okay, uh, sometimes we need to look for the permutations and combinations of the input, right? But in case of decision table, it was like a black box testing. Here our idea is to check the codes, right? And here, if suppose I have to deal with this, then the best thing to check that whatever you have done is correct or not. In that case, you go ahead with forming the truth table. That would give you an idea that the multiple condition coverage are tested or not. It's like I have like condition C1, I have condition C2, I have some decision D1, let's say. So once again, I'll go for true, true, and true, false, and false, true, and false, false. Right, that kind of thing. We're going to check. Now, next is like function coverage. Here, what we are doing is that we're we are aware of the fact that each function forms a logical unit, and then these functions are easier to identify as well. On top of it, we previously discussed this point as well, that 100% function coverage is possible, whereas 100% code coverage is not possible. See, what typically happens is like, if suppose I have like 1,000 kilo LOCs of lines, 1,000 kilo lines of code. In that case, what we do is like testing these 1,000 kilo lines of codes is tough, but in this sized code, the functions will be, let's say, 100, right? Sorry, functions will be 100. Now testing those 100 functions is comparatively easier as compared to the entire line of code. Then what we have is like functions have more logical mapping to the requirements, because each function, sorry, each function will be for some requirement, some specific requirement only. In that case, what we'll do is that we can identify those requirements, and we can map those requirements as well. Then we have like function coverage provides a natural transition to black box testing as well, because each function, when I'm looking for function, I am not going into the details about each and every line of code. I'm looking for function as a whole. So it is, in some sense, I am providing a natural transition to the black box testing, because I'm not going for each and every line of code. I am only dealing with your functions, which is the bigger umbrella. And in that case, it's like it's like you know your surface level testing is done. Your surface level testing is done. Now, next is your unit or functional testing. So, in this, the initial quick checks are done by the developers, and in the initial checks, we remove the obvious errors. See, this time I'm dealing with a unit, right? And this is done before more expensive checks. Expensive checks means whenever you are using some expensive tools, or where we have like a time consuming process. So unit testing will be done. Then it's like we have like building the debug versions, and what we do is we make use of your IDEs in order to test it. Uh, Selenium is one of the example of this ID. We'll look into how Selenium works, how uh, you know we have another tool called as Bad Boy. The name is Bad Boy, but it is like very useful for the testing purpose. So in some sense, your unit testing is like the debugging, or in generic term, obviously it is falling under the testing criteria. But yes, uh, whenever I'm saying initial quick checks by developers, so in some sense it's also kind of debugging as well. Now let's talk about your cyclomatic complexity. Right. So this cyclomatic complexity, or you can call it as a code complexity, basically you might have done in graph theory. Okay. So hope you guys are aware about the graph theory terms. Graph theory course you have done? No?
Yes, sir, we have done graph theory.
Okay, graph theory. So we'll see some simple terms related to graph theory as well. Now, so this is given by your Thomas McCabe, and your cyclomatic complexity is basically, it is a measure to the logical complexity of a program by considering the control flow graphs. We look for control flow graphs in it. Right. So before moving to this, let's quickly see some basic details about your graphs. Now, in your graph, this basically consists of your nodes or set of edges, and these edges will be connecting the nodes. Like we have, like let's say n1, we have n2, we have like n3. So these nodes will be connected by directed or undirected edges. Now, so the point is why to use this graphs. So basically, these graphs are like very popular and are commonly used structures for your abstraction, and most commonly used for testing as well. So these structures are like pretty common for our testing purposes as well. And looking at the graphs, we can say that these graphs are the easier representation of a model or scheme. These graphs are the easier representation of a model or scheme. And these graphs are, since broadly used, so these graphs are, in some sense, a well defined structures. These are some of the uses of your graphs, where what we do is we make use of graphs in your algorithm representation, neural networks, transportation networks, social networks, molecular structures, geographic modeling, and so on and so forth. This is the formal description uh, of the graph, and where this is like four tuples. In some of the literatures, we can see it is five tuples as well. Right. So don't get confused if suppose I didn't see a graph notation with five tuples. So what we have is, like, we have capital N, which is like your set of nodes, and then we have N naught, which is like initial set of nodes. We have uh, you know NF, which is final set of nodes, and we have E, which is like set of edges. So this is one example where we have like this is initial set of node, sorry, initial edge, initial node. This is final output edge, or the final. This is the final uh, or the output node. These are intermediary, and your looking at this, your n will be like n. Sorry, n naught, n1, n2, and n3. Set of edges will be like these. We can name these edges. Right. In this, we have set of input edges as this. Rest are these, and input nodes are these. Output nodes are these, and all these are the entire capital N set of nodes. Now, these are some of the common terms which are used in your no in your graph theory, which is like path. We have like subpath, then we have length, we have test path, we have like reach or reachability, then we have like visiting, then we have like touring, and let's look into these terms one by one. So to start with, what we have is like we have path. So in this, we see that from n0 to n6 we have a path. If suppose I name it this, okay, so I have like a path which is in this form. There exists a path, right? Then we can have a subpath. So in subpath, it will be like possibilities like these two. We can have this as subpath. We can have uh, this as another subpath. So these possibilities are there. And this is the length in a graph. So from one node to another, we'll have like we'll count the number of edges that would form the length in the graph. Then we have like test path in a graph. So the test path is like from what all nodes to what all nodes I'm going to test my product. Right, from one end to other, I'm going to test my product. Then we have like reach or reachability. So whether a particular node, let's say n2, is reachable from n0. So in that case, this can be done in case of directed graph, right? In fact, in testing, we deal with directed graph majorly. So if we see that, okay, there is a possible movement from n0 to n4, there is a possible movement from n4 to n8, there is a possible movement from n8 to n5, and then there is another possible movement from n5 to n2. That means the reach is there, there is a reachability. Then we have like visiting. Visiting means in a path, the nodes which we are visiting, so we are able to visit these kinds of nodes. Right. Tour means like I am taking a tour from a particular path, so it can be a subset of a path. Then we have like SESE graph. That means we have a single entry and single exit graph. And here what we see is that here I have this node missing. So this is the entry. This is the exit. So I have a single entry on this end, and I have like single exit on this end. Right, so I have a single entry and a single exit. Up till now, any doubts? Up till now, any doubts? I hope you guys are there with me.
No doubt, sir.
Okay. Now let's talk about CFGs. So what we have is we have control flow graphs, and in your control flow graphs or your program graphs, these things represent the control flow of programs and are widely used in analysis of your softwares. These are also known as decision to decision graphs, So you can also call this as your DD graph. And the edges represent the control flow between the sentiments. Now, these are some of the terms in your control flow graph. One is your node, one is your edges or links, decision. Then we have your decision node, we have junction node, we have regions. So, node is the one which represents one or more procedural statements, right? A particular node will be like this, edges will be like this, represents the flow of control in a program. In case of decision node, a node with more than one arrow leaving out. So, it's like only one arrow. Junction node is more than one arrow entering in, and region is like, if suppose I have like n2, n1, n3. So if suppose there is this kind of thing, so this becomes your region. These are some of the terms in your control flow graphs. So let's see some flow graph notations. So this is a sequence, right? So in this case, it's like I have this or this, and it's like, sequence is going on. No, further loops or anything else is there. So in case of if then else, let's say I have this small piece of code, right? If this, then statement this, else this statement. So I have like if this, move to, if it is true, move to either 2 or move to 3 and then 4 and then exit. So this 3 and 4 can also be, so this particular graph can also be drawn as like 1 to 2, then some exit, or 3 to 4, then to exit. Right. So the reason being, my entire calculation remains same. When we'll see the cyclomatic complexity formula, this extra edge or extra node will my overall calculations. Right. 3, 4, I can club it. Right. Because we went to else part and then we moved to 4.
So your screen is frozen, I think.
Uh, at,
We are seeing control flow graph.
oh, I have moved to 3, 4 slides. Yeah, some issues with this Google Meet. I don't know why it is happening. Even I don't know why it is happening. Yeah, I can see on my other screen, I can see the same. No further movement. Some problem with Google Meet. Or maybe what we can do is we can take a pause here, and in we can have the doubt session, and the further we'll start from this particular slide in our next class. So let's take some doubts now. Any doubts? Any doubts?
So suppose in decision coverage there is only one condition, then we will consider that as a condition coverage or a decision coverage.
Yeah. So you can give a name accordingly.
Okay, sir.
Right. You can name it accordingly. Any other doubt? Okay. Then that means we are good for today. Then we'll meet in the next class, and probably we'll start from. Don't worry, I'll start from this control flow graph slide only. You could have informed me. I've covered 4 slides, but anyways, no issues. See you then. See you then. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.